Start. All right, we're on. We officially made it past the first podcast episode, and we are into number 2. When I was going through and editing the podcast last week, one of the magic editing features was remove unwanted space in between your words and ums and and
yes,
and it tallied them all.
Good.
And it was ums, and us was 622.
Yeah. I didn't even think I spoke 622 words.
Yeah.
So
today,
I bet 3/4 of those were mine. So
no, that's okay.
Yeah, that's how it's gonna be.
Today, that's my goal is to lighten up a little bit on those. There I go again.
There you go.
Last week, we tried to do the video situation, and I hope it's working. We got our camera set up. I don't know if it will. I really hope it's working so we don't get 45 minutes into the episode and say, oh, shoot, the cameras weren't even working. So this week we'll try it again and see if it works out. So welcome to episode 2 of the Wyoming 5 Star Podcast. If you're out there listening, thank you for tuning in. We're not only a Facebook company, we are also a website, which will be launching pretty soon. We're going to have lots of written articles and one-on-one interviews, stats and rankings, and honestly, so much more that's coming soon. I can't wait for that to launch here probably in the next 2 weeks, maybe 3. We should have that up and live, and we'll if you're following on Facebook, we'll let you guys know. And then last thing I wanted to touch on before we dive into our topics today is we are going to do a photo contest. Part of building this brand that we've realized has been one of the difficult things is acquiring visual. We can talk on the podcast or we can write stories or make posts, but we
take our own videos, take our own pictures.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we would like to extend a photo contest to some of the people out there in the state for the football and the volleyball season. So at the end of the month, we're going to be doing $50 for the best sport photo of the fall season. I know there's plenty of you guys out there that got some really good photos. I see them on Facebook, and so please share them with us. You can do that at info.wyoming5star@gmail.com, or you can just send them to us directly on Facebook, whatever works best for you, and we'll put a flyer out on Facebook. So keep an eye out for that, and if you win, we'll let you know. We'll reach out to you, and you'll get a nice little $50. You can go out to dinner or use it on gas or whatever you'd like to.
Yeah. Yeah, there's so many great photos out there that you just see all over the place, and just share them up. We want to celebrate those things, and it'd be really great to get a bunch of those that we can feature on the site.
Mm-hmm. So this week was actually really a cool week for Wyoming high school sports. We got State Volleyball that just took place last night, which was actually a really cool event, and also it was the state semifinal football week, which we did quite a bit of watching on online, and what an awesome turnout. Some of these games came down to the wire. Totally looking forward to talking about those with you today.
Some of them did not.
Some of them did not. Had to turn my eyes away on some of the games, but that's just how it goes here in Wyoming. So let's dive into state volleyball. I think this is probably Wyoming's coolest event of the year. It is so fun. I mean, my wife and I went down. We had a great time. We were taking pictures and videos. We were sitting next to some unruly fans, and just seeing the passion that these small communities have for their volleyball teams was a little bit unexpected for me. I think this was the most patrons or guests that I've ever seen at Wyoming State Volleyball. I mean, I sent you that video. It was totally packed.
Was that your first time ever being to that
event? It was probably my 5th time being there. But this was by far the most electric it's ever been. The music was great. We were talking a little bit about the layout of the court, and they've got all 4 championship games happening at once. So the 4A, 3A, 2A, and 1A courts are all being played at the same time. So it's nonstop action. No matter where you're looking, you're seeing an awesome hit or a block or celebration from the fans. And then after every set, which I think is really kind of a cool thing about volleyball, there's a little mini celebration when a team wins a set. So you'll be watching this court over here, and then you just hear this uproar of fans over to the right, and you look over and you're like, oh, Kelly Walsh just won a set, and then they're celebrating and they switch sides, and the atmosphere just was super cool. And honestly, I'm totally converted. I'm going to volleyball every year now.
Yeah, I've been a few times, and you're right. That sport already is just extremely loud, with how much excitement and energy and the momentum that occurs with it. But yeah, you add in all of those teams, fans, and you think the event center is huge, but for that many towns, communities, student sections, casual observers, it fills up fast. And so it feels a lot bigger than it really is. And it is an exciting day to go watch. That's for sure. The only thing I think you could probably compare it to is wrestling, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I would say state wrestling or Ronthon, which is also that might be up there for coolest event. But
yes,
yeah, I mean, having all those different communities in the building, there's just different, there's waves of different colors in the stands, which is really cool. And we were talking, Rachel and I were talking about who had the biggest fan section, and I think it was Sundance.
Yeah,
they had 1,000 people there.
That doesn't surprise me in this state. I think. I think smaller schools oftentimes are a little bit more passionate about their teams, and they're a little bit closer. Everybody's a little bit closer to each other, and you have consistent family names all the time. And that's a reflection I've had, moving around the state. I've coached at the 4A, 3A level, and the passion is unmatched, and like we've talked about before, you see those people wearing their colors every day of the week, in the grocery stores and wherever they go. There's just a lot of pride, and so that doesn't surprise me at all. I watched, we'll get into football a little bit later, but I watched that Sheridan Central game, and the hometown announcer was like, there's not much of a crowd here at the field, and it was cold all over the state and rainy and all that kind of stuff. But then you flip on Mountain View and Lovell, and that place was out of control.
Rocking.
Yeah. Not even close in comparison to the type of energy, and maybe Sheridan's just taking for granted that they win every single year and every single time. But that jumps out to me a lot, actually.
Yeah, for sure. And like you said, these some of the smaller communities in our state, maybe there's not as much to do, but on a Friday afternoon and your team has a chance to play in the state finals, what a cool moment that is for Mountain View was a really, really cool scene. That was a great game. But back to volleyball, the lead up into the championship games, which the warm-up period for the championship games is really cool in itself, because you've got hundreds of volleyball players, balls flying all over the place, people jumping and running, and coaches out there clapping and yelling, and it was just a really cool scene. And to lead up into that, the third place game, the championship games are about 4:30. We got there about 2:30 to kind of get our seats, and we could kind of watch the third place games and kind of get our filming and things set up and ready. And it was really neat because all the third place games, 1A, 2A, and 3A, all had finished, and the 4A game, third place game, went to 5 sets. It was the only game that went to 5 sets. So the entire arena was watching one court. All the teams that had finished their games were sitting on their respective court, angled, and watching Laramie play against Thunder Basin. It was such a neat experience to see kind of the collective love of sports and love of volleyball be just super concentrated on one court. And when Laramie ended up taking third, and when they beat Thunder Basin, just a roar came across the Ford Wyoming Center. And I remember thinking, oh my gosh, if this is third place, we're in for a treat. And it totally lived up to its hype. Immediately the music started playing after, the energies picked up, all the championship qualifying teams ran out onto the court, and the it was just like an electric feeling. And I was on the edge of my seat. Like I was shaking a little bit, thinking like, I got to get some of this. I got to capture some of this, because it was just such a neat experience. And like I said, I'm converted to state volleyball. What a fun experience. I mean, like I said, my wife went down, she had a great time. And it was just overall a lot of fun.
Yeah. I think when you can do that 1A through 4A, not every state is set up to do that, but when you have that ability and it's all in one building, they're in and out, everybody's, pretty close to doing it at the same time. Yeah. You're going to create that type of excitement. Like in Idaho, we, the basketball, both girls and boys, they do it on separate weekends, but it's 1A through 5A. And 1A starts at 9:00 in the morning, and 5A starts at like 9:00 in the evening. And everybody just sits and watch basketball, and so just the casual observers increase the crowd numbers, and then you watch for an open seat and you sprint down to it. And yeah, there's nothing quite like that when you can get everybody into the same building like that. And then on top of just volleyball being that type of sport, that's ton of excitement. Everybody's cheering all the time. Very, very positive sport.
Mm-hmm, it is. So let's dive into 4A first. It was Kelly Walsh versus Green River, and the Lady Trojans, they took down Green River 3-1 to finish the back-to-back or the repeat championship cycle there for Kelly Walsh. That was a really fun game to watch. Kelly Walsh beat Cheyenne East in the first round, then Thunder Basin, and then of course they played Green River and they became back-to-back champions. Their coach is Jeff Barkle. It was fun watching him because I think, if I remember right, he might have been one of the only male head coaches, and he was really energetic. And I had a good view of the Kelly Walsh court. And of course, being in Casper, there's tons of fans there, and they played down on the, I don't know which direction it was, but the end of the arena where the bowl and the seats wrap around. So that was just all green, Kelly Walsh. And we got a good look at their student section. They, lots of dudes with their shirt off, Trojans painted on their chest, lots of green paint and signs. Like, it was just a really cool atmosphere, especially when you have a Casper team in the finals. They actually lost the first set, but then they bounced back to win the next 3 in a row. It was kind of a cool moment watching them after the championship game, because they were the first game to finish, and somebody brought down like a basket of like cookies or something, and it was funny to watch all the girls sit down and like, in kind of a weird way, like kind of break bread, like we did this and just celebrate together. But then they they had like 20 minutes of sitting there on the court watching the other teams finish their game. So that was just a unique little perspective that I had to see, like the camaraderie, and especially like from a state championship winning team or a state championship caliber team, that level of unity was really honestly unmatched amongst some of the other teams. It was number 5, Madden Waring. She was the right side. She had some huge blocks in the second and third set, which I think really set the tone, because I think they beat Green River 25-15 and like 25-16 or something like that in the second and third set. And pretty much after that, I think the writing was on the wall. Green River played a great game, and they had a big fan section too, which was really cool. Number 8, Cedar Smith, she was the setter. She had a lot of beautiful sets. She was mixing it up, like setting up the hitters and kind of keeping the defense of Green River really on their heels. And Rachel made a good point. She said that it seemed like she just really kind of above the rest. She really wanted the win for Kelly Walsh. I mean, of course, you're in the championship, you really want it, but you probably see this as a coach all the time. Like, you can kind of look at a player and just tell that this is really important to them. All the marbles are out there. It's such a high stakes and kind of tense situation, and she just really lived up to the hype. Her attitude was really cool, and I had a really nice time watching the Kelly Walsh team win. Of course, the atmosphere was great. Now moving down to the 3A, Lovell took down Cody 3-2. It went all the way to 5 sets. They're the number 2 ranked Bulldogs. They beat Newcastle, Douglas, and Cody as they moved through the bracket. This was their first championship ever in 3A. I think they had won a couple, must have been in 2A, but it was their first in 3A. They're led by their coach Tara Kostalecki, and this was an absolutely like a back and forth match. We were kind of talking about last week when we were covering some of the football games. Like it seemed like in this match particularly, I didn't know who was going to win until the absolute final moment of the game, when Lovell pulled away, like with maybe 2 or 3 points remaining. They had a super gritty defense. They took down actually a really athletic Cody team. We know a lot of them from basketball, watching them over the years. Like I can think of a few like Grace Hayes and Maddie Boudry, Talich and Radakovich. Like they just were a really well-rounded Cody team. And so I honestly, like I was predicting Cody to win, but the professionalism and like the composure of the Lovell team was really stood out. They were led on offense by number 12 Celeste Lindsay and number 14 Allie Walker. They were basically scoring points all night. They are kind of 2 of the taller girls on the team. Can't remember which one was the middle, but one of them was the outside. And I would say a majority of the sets were funneled through them, and they just were so consistent. I mean, they were consistently scoring points for the Lovell team, and especially like another player, number 2, Kendall Collins. She had a couple really awesome digs that really stifled the Cody momentum because, like I said, this was a back and forth type of match where Cody was scoring a lot of points, Lovell was scoring a lot of points, and it was like, I don't know if in the final 2 or 3 sets the score ever got above a 3-point differential. So it was just consistently back and forth. And that defensive level just, I mean, timely moments after timely moments, the big chase there in the 5th set to bring the ball back onto the court. Then they score a point on that. That kind of seemed like maybe not the final nail, but that seemed like, okay, Lovell is like, they believe in themselves. They are like one step away from doing this. And that was a cool moment. I'd love to talk with Coach Kostalecki. I emailed her and just give her congratulations. And she was really a professional looking coach. She was wearing like a suit. She had like a blazer on. I thought that was really professional and nice. I appreciated seeing that because you can tell, like, it's not every day you play in a state championship game and you get to the finals and you wear your best outfit, or, you know, your coaching staff is dressed accordingly. Like that just kind of bleeds through the fan section. It kind of runs its course over the team as well. And just the seriousness involved in that type of situation was really a unique thing. Did you get a chance to watch any of that game?
I didn't, but just looking back on, you know, Cody's only 2 losses were to Kelly Walsh this year. You know, the only time I think Cody and Lovell played each other 5 times this year, and only in one of those games did Lovell take 2 sets from Cody. So
wow, what a cool trajectory of them, like building up to the finals.
Yeah.
That's so neat.
And you know, that's funny because all I've heard about is just how surprisingly good, and I don't know if that's the right term, but just how good Lovell volleyball has been this year. Mm-hmm. And that really, you know, in the West at least, it was Cody and Lovell and everybody else. But I mean, it's kind of like Lovell basketball last year, you know, winning it, and you know, you just have good athletes at the right time. And I watched some of the clips he sent me, and I mean, I couldn't really tell. Nobody really had an advantage. I thought Lovell looked just as good or better than Cody a lot of the times. So that's pretty awesome for them and their community.
Yeah, speaking of Lovell basketball, I actually bumped into Coach Durchie on the way home. We were getting gas at Ghost Town, and he was coming in, I was coming out, and I bumped into him and talked to him. I was like, dude, how about that? How was that game? And he had a good quote. He was like, it's just really, this was a good thing for the community. And, especially like the stat that you just brought up, like not knowing if this is going to be another loss to Cody, and kind of in the most tense situation. And to see them pull through that match stuck out the most to me. And that was on my side of the court. So I had a really good view of it, but it was just it was fun. The bench was totally active. I know that's one of your big things when you're coaching the boys basketball team is, just because you're on the bench doesn't mean you're not a part of the game or a part of the action. And Level embodied that, their bench. So yeah. I really respected that.
Yeah. Well, and when you get into state championship games, if you can just stick around early, you never know what's going to happen, especially if you're the underdog and pressure starts to take hold. And in that game, momentum is king. And so, yeah, pretty awesome for them.
Yep. Moving over to 2A, Bighorn, they took down Sundance 3-1, the number 2 ranked Lady Rams. They beat Rocky Mountain and Pine Bluffs, and then Sundance to complete the three-peat. They were coached by Ali Nikant. They won the first set, lost the second set, actually, and then they won the third and the fourth set. Bighorn had a great defensive front line. Number 10, Afton Cummins, she was the middle, and she really anchored that defense because, Sundance was like a joyous team. They were fun to watch. But you could tell that kind of over the course of the game that the Bighorn defense really was starting to take hold of the momentum of the game. They were really just keeping that, that serving possession like on their side of the court, and which enabled their offense, throughout the course of the match. But yeah, I mean, they had a really scrappy libero too. I didn't write down her number. I can't remember who it was, but that was it, number 2. Yeah, okay, maybe it was number 2, but she had a great game, and I remember watching her run out of bounds and do like I think it was
Tika Baker.
Okay, she had a great save kind of over by their bench that brought the ball back onto the court, and I remember thinking like, okay, this type of athleticism on a 2A team, like wow, and they were a lot of fun to watch. Of course, the Bighorn, all the sports teams are so just prideful in general. Rightfully so. I mean, they are an excellent, just athletic program.
Three-peat.
Yeah. They
3 out of the last 4 Bighorn has won.
Wow.
Yep, and 3 in a row.
Wow, good for them. I mean, can you imagine winning 3 state championships? I mean, Kelly Walsh won 2, but 3 in a row, man. Yeah. That's pretty impressive. Like as a coach when
in a small town, especially.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I hear you on that. Like, so as a coach, when you're approaching like a state championship game, like, of course you don't coach volleyball, but just from a coaching perspective, like what would you caution your team against? Like, you won the state championship last year, maybe you even won it the last 2 years, so you're going into like a third chance at the state title to three-peat. Like, take me through like maybe what that kind of conversation looks like in the locker room before the game, and how you prepare a team for, maybe to not overlook your opponent, maybe to not feel entitled to the moment. Like what are those conversations like, and how do you prep along the way for something like that?
Well, I think, it's all process, and nothing beats experience, especially in state type of games or state championship games. And for this team to be there twice already, and to kind of see what that is like, feel what that's like, hear what it's like. I mean, there's just nothing that beats that experience. I was looking back, Sundance swept them in the regional championship.
Wow.
So that tells me that, sometimes I think the moment can sometimes be too big for teams that haven't been there before. Sundance, obviously another really great volleyball program in this state, and it has been for a long time. But that's the biggest thing, is who can get their kids to be more process oriented rather than, there's not a lot of speeches that you can give in that moment. Mm-hmm. If you're not prepared for that moment, from years back or weeks back or just the course of your season, it's not going to happen for you, you know? So, all of the work that they put in, you know, it establishes your starting point for that game. And you know, and I think that gives you an opportunity to just kind of relax and do what you need to do. So, you know, I would imagine that's probably what happened here.
Cool. Yeah. I think if I was in that situation, I would be like incredibly nervous as a coach, you know, not because of, you know, experience or lack thereof or whatever, but, just like, you know, maybe when is this streak going to end? I don't know, all the things that would be running through my mind, but they were definitely prepared, and they came out with a lot of energy, but also a lot of composure as well, you know, to win the first set and then to lose the second set. Like, I could see myself as like a player in that situation being like, oh no, we're reliving what happened last week, you know?
Yep.
And then to just really like set the record straight and pull away was a cool thing.
Yeah. It's a battle to stay in the moment. You know, if you are able to do that, which we talked about this a little bit last week, you know, with volleyball, you know, like you have to stay in the moment, you know, game to game, set to set, point to point. And I can imagine like what you're saying, if any anxiety creeps in, you know, you're going to lose that point.
Yep.
So the team there's some desperation right there that comes through, I think, you know, but if you're not able to stay in the moment, especially in that sport, I think it's not going to be a good night for you.
Mm-hmm. Well, turning over to the 1A match, like this was the only other match that went 5 sets, and it was the last match to finish as well. So like when I was talking about Laramie in the third place game, that's kind of a similar scene to what happened in the championship matches, where all the teams were sitting on their respective courts, waiting for the award ceremony. And so everybody had their eyes on the 1A match, which was kind of a neat thing because they're the smallest schools. But in a way they got the most attention, and it was a really, really neat thing. It was Cokeville, and Little Snake River. Cokeville took down the Rattlers 3-2. This was a long match, and you could tell that there was some exhaustion kind of setting in. And as you know, like the smaller your school, the less players typically you have. I think Cokeville had 9 players, 6 on the court and 3 on the bench. I mean, the level of exhaustion to go, you know, you're 2 hours deep into this game, you know, and everything is riding on every single point. So like the mental focus and the preparation to, you know, just like you were saying, like to stick to the process was embodied by Cokeville. And they're such a historic program. They beat Southeast in the first round, Hewlett in the semifinals, and then of course Little Snake River. It was their 27th title in school history. 6 of last 9 titles Cokeville's won. Yep.
And Snake River and Cokeville were in the last 3, including this year. Snake River beat them last year.
Wow. Yeah. And I think that it was also a rematch of the regional championship game as well. Some Cokeville folks were sitting next to me, and I don't know how that turned out, but I could tell that they were kind of feeling the pressure because every point was so monumental, you know, and especially a match that goes to 5 sets, like, you know, you are on the edge of your seat when that ball goes in the air and your girl jumps up to swing and hit. You're like just crossing your fingers that it's going to score. And then Little Snake River would dive out of bounds and save the ball. And so the momentum and the kind of pressure just was like bubbling at the surface. And, you know, unlike any other sport, like maybe baseball, you know, where like every pitch, or, you know, like in volleyball, every serve, like it's just, it's like an anxiety attack almost, you know?
Yeah.
And that was a cool thing for me that I hadn't experienced in a long time, actually.
Yeah. Cokeville, as you said, you know, just a truly historic program. I remember when I was going to college at Idaho State University in Pocatello, they had a coaching change. It's a Division I program, and they hired a 1A coach from Wyoming, last name Tykert. And he was there probably 6 years. I think they won the Big Sky Championship, you know. So I know the Tykert family, you know, has really kind of established that, and probably many others. But yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people know about Cokeville, not just in the state.
Yeah, that's really neat. I mean, to go from 1A to a big, wow.
Yeah, I mean, you never see that anymore. You might see like a 6A coach from Las Vegas that goes and goes to a Big Sky offensive coordinator position or something like that.
Yeah, but not a town of 600 people.
No, and he wasn't even like he's club coach or anything. It was just straight. He put his application in and got the job and did a heck of a job.
So this year they were coached by Kristen Vierig. I hope I'm saying that right. Vierig. This was probably, outside of Lovell and Cody, this was probably the best match of the championship round. Little Snake River was a very good team, very tall. Their front line was awesome. Like, I can think of a couple players right now that it seemed like every time they were set, they were going to score a point against Cokeville, and that's just how the game was on both sides. Like I said, Cokeville, I think they only had 9 or 10 players, and by the end of that match, like, you could see hands were on hips, mouths open, like breathing very hard. I mean, the fans were like, had their hands on their head, like just everybody was kind of feeling the weight of that moment. And their coach Varig, I hope I'm saying that right, but she was really composed, and that was not an easy game to coach, especially against like a rival in Little Snake River. Like that was a very high stakes situation, but I think Cokeville probably had the best student section that I could see. Similar to the Kelly Walsh team, they had Panthers. They had like a row of high school football players, I'm guessing. And they had Panthers painted on their chest, and they had the orange pom poms, and every timeout there was a dad or a young guy that was leading a chant.
I know. I remember that guy. Yeah. We get the fortune here in Lander to host the 1A volleyball and basketball regional tournaments, and that's a treat. And these communities and schools, I mean, these are deep rooted rivalries. And you want to see the passion and maybe what's the word, past passion a little bit. Like, I mean, it crosses into war almost out here, and but yeah, just both, all of these communities that compete here and at the state championship, just extremely prideful, something that you haven't really seen before.
Yeah. Cokeville had a brilliant outside hitter, number 6, Addison Barnes. She was a high flyer, man. I mean, from 1A school, this girl could definitely hang with some of the bigger schools, and she was the one that I think was wearing the exhaustion the most. And the reason I say that is because they were setting her over and over and over. Sometimes there would be a rally, or that would go over the net, like, 10 times, for 1 point, and she would swing 8 of them. I mean, so I wish I would have kept a tally on how many kills she actually had, but more importantly, how many times they set her. I mean, it had to have been 75%. I mean, of all the attacks. I mean, she was really doing a great job, and her team and her coach and her teammates, they were like riding for her, man. Like, they were so impressed. And if you would give out an MVP award, it would absolutely be Addison Barnes. Like, she played one heck of a volleyball game, not only on the offensive end but on defense too. She's not even the tallest player on her team, but man, she was up above the net just about every single time. And then just one kind of cool note that I wanted to touch on, the Little Snake River coach, Jenny Evans. She probably had the best outfit of the whole tournament. And I say that in a respectful way. She had a purple and a gold, like, glitter blazer that, like those kind of like those couch pillows that if you run your hand over it changes from one color, and then you run back.
Velvet.
It was the coolest jacket. I was like, almost like, where did you, I almost like, where did you get? I want one of those. But she was another coach that was like dressed to the nines. And, of course, I really respect that, especially from a coaching staff. And, so yeah, you got to give credit to Little Snake River. They were, they were, I can't remember the final score of the fifth set, but I think it was like 15-12, so that just goes to show you how close extremely close matches. That was another match that could have just really went either way, and you weren't sure who it was going to be until the last 2 or 3 points. Cokeville, their kind of prestige, I think, pulled away there in the last 2 or 3 points, but Little Snake River, they were right on the edge of winning that game, and what a cool celebration that would have been, because how they do the seating is, if you're going to watch the 1A court, they divide off kind of the bleacher section for the 1A fans. So you got Little Snake River and you got Cokeville fans sitting right next to each other. So like you were saying, it was like a Coliseum kind of feel, where every time Little Snake River would point, 100 people would stand up, and and then every time Cokeville would score, 100 people would stand up. It was so fun to watch, and I didn't have the best angle of that game, but I kept like finding myself turning back. I'd be filming, and then I would kind of turn back and look at the crowd, because that was almost like more fun to watch.
I'm telling you, the amount of administrators that have had to warn fans from both of those schools,
Well, that's a Wyoming thing, man. You show up for your team. Like you were saying, but yeah, state volleyball was it was a wonderful experience. I think volleyball just in general in our state needs a lot of love, because what a unique sport. And, it's easy to get kind of wrapped up in some of the boys' sports or the boys' like moments and things like that. But this was like for the girls, and it was a total celebration of our girls in the state of Wyoming, and how awesome some of these programs are, and how prestigious they are, and how professional they are. So I had a great time watching. Congratulations to Kelly Walsh and Lovell, Bighorn and Cokeville, your 2025 volleyball state champions here in the state of Wyoming. You can check us out on Facebook over the next couple weeks. We're going to have some content centered around the state championship. We also tried to post as many live scores and updates as we could throughout the game. So if you missed something, you can go back and check those out. But be on the lookout for our state championship recap video over the next few weeks.
Yeah, hopefully we can get some interviews too of some of the coaches and players, and let them have their opportunity to shed light on what a great season they had, and what that journey looked like for regionals and state.
Yep, good call. I'll be reaching out to a handful of coaches, and maybe we can get some player interviews too. That really kind of what ties the content together is, not just our opinion or our view of what's going on, but actually hearing from the people themselves that are in that moment. And so be on the lookout for that stuff too over the next few weeks, especially on our website when we'll have more written articles, which will be coming soon. And I'm really excited to share some of that stuff with the state.
Yeah, it's honestly the journey, for these families and coaches. It's one thing for us to spend 5 to 10 minutes talking about this, but it's another thing. And I think the whole point of our endeavor here is, there's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears that went into this, these championships, and even getting to those points. And, that's what we intend to do, is really to find, those folks and let them just talk. It's a people really don't understand unless you've been a part of it. Just everything that goes into it, the early mornings, the long bus rides, the for coaches, everything that they have to deal with and work through, and getting a group of 15 to 18-year-old kids to move in the right direction for a consistent period of time is not the easiest task. And just kudos to all of them. You've got some powerhouses there, and then some newcomers, obviously, with Lovell knocking them off. That's pretty awesome. So yeah, awesome work to all those athletes and coaches.
Yeah, well said. So let's turn over to football. We're talking now about the semifinal week of the 2025 state tournament. One note: wipe your camera lens.
Oh, God. Can we talk about that for a second?
Yeah, please.
Oh my goodness. We'll probably get in trouble or something, but yeah, NFHS. If you are going, and I think the state has to recognize this too. If they are going to host these games on these, robot cameras, they have got to make sure the quality is at least okay.
Yep.
I mean, in the Mountain View level game, the lens right in the middle of the field on the 50-yard line, you could see their numbers. For the rest of the game, you had no idea who they were until they, scooted to the end zone at the end, and then you saw, oh, okay, number 3.
Yep.
That can't happen. And if we're going to be in,
well, especially demanding that if you want to watch the game not in person, you have to watch it through this camera.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So
I mean,
totally
if we
agree.
have contractual obligations with NFHS, I mean, it is on NFHS to make sure that those things are done. But what a sad. I mean, I know coaches have their films on Huddle or their own cameras and things like that kids can go back and watch. But that's a special moment, and for them to have a foggy camera and it looks like it's raining. That's not why. I mean, they just need somebody to either replace the lens or fix it. But I just think that's just completely unacceptable.
Yeah, or like the old ESPN clips of there's a post-game interview and you see the yellow rag come around the front and wipe the camera off.
Yeah.
Like just somebody, I mean, is anybody watching from the school? I don't know.
I just in my little experience, I know you used to be able to email NFHS right away, hey, this camera is either off or not working or foggy, and sometimes there was updates that they could make, or they would pass it along. But talking with athletic directors and others that are involved with it, it sounds like NFHS is just really, really difficult to work with to get some of those things done. So I know it's lucrative for the state, and it's cool. I'm not saying that.
Well, the intention is very cool.
Absolutely. Yeah. For families to be able to watch their kid on the sophomore team play in a back gym in Rock Springs, that's pretty awesome.
Yep. Totally.
But if we're going to feature these games, they've just got to make sure that there's some quality control the week before, testing those things out to make sure that that's okay. I mean, I just feel bad for the communities and especially the players and coaches that, hey, let's, put that on YouTube tonight or put it on NFHS tonight, and you can't really see anything.
Yeah.
I mean, we were just luckily the PA announcer for that Mountain View game was loud enough that
you could kind of hear the numbers.
You knew what was going on, kind of, but it was just a big blob in the middle of the field.
Yeah, and it wasn't just Mountain View. I mean, it was multiple games. So we're talking. There's 10 semifinal games. And I would say 7 of them were not clear at all.
Yeah,
and that you're right, that is a problem. I mean, and maybe there's a opening now in the market for somebody to do, maybe I'm winking a little bit on that, but yeah, I mean, we need that. You're right. There has to be some quality control involved. And I understand that NFHS can't be at every single event. I get that, but maybe it should be incumbent upon us to email and say, hey, wipe that thing. I don't know, but
yeah, I think there's a lot of players involved. NFHS is at every event because their robot cameras are there. But, I think the state needs to work with the schools, to make sure that if we're going to have this for these kids for culminating events, for state championship events, then they need to make sure that those cameras are clear and we can actually watch the game. There's nothing more frustrating.
Yeah, I hear. Okay, let's dive in. So, let's start over in the 1A 6-man. Let's set the stage for the 1A 6-man finals. It was number 3 Burlington who beat number 2 Encampment 43-6. It's their 4th straight title appearance for the Huskies. And on the other side, it was number 1 Little Snake River. They beat number 4 Hewlett 79-8. So that means it's 4 straight appearances versus 5 straight appearances. So, I mean, kind of like we were talking about in volleyball. I mean, man, these powerhouse programs in the 1A and the smaller schools are clashing yet again in the state semifinals, and the storylines of that is really cool. It's kind of like reminiscent of like Cleveland Cavaliers versus Golden State Warriors, where they had that run. Every year something new could happen. So I think it's really cool. In the semifinal matchup, like I said, Burlington took down Encampment. They're led by Coach Trent Agard. Burlington is a super well-rounded team. 6-man is, of course, there's 5 less guys out there on the field. So it is incumbent upon you to have really good athletes who are versatile and diverse, who can do different things, but also to kind of incorporate everybody in the program to bring out the best 6 guys that you can. And we're talking about really small towns here, where there's not as many kids to choose from, so you're working with what you got. And Burlington, just year after year, man, they really do a great job of fielding a great roster. I mean, starting with their quarterback, I think you can call him quarterback in 6-man, but his name's Cole Walker. He was super accurate downfield. He had multiple long balls for touchdowns, and he really set the tone for that Burlington offense. I mean, they got off to a really hot start. Of course, they only gave up 6 points, and I think that was like in the very end of the fourth quarter. So for most of the game, this was a shutout, and that speaks really highly of their defense. I wrote on here, they were gang tackling every single time Encampment tried to move the ball down the field. These were never solo tackles. This was 3 or 4 or 5 guys rushing to the ball. I mean, and as a coach, that is exactly what you want from your defense. This is a team effort, right? But they had great endurance. They allowed 0 points. Oh, maybe the Encampment scored in the first half, but I wrote they allowed 0 points in the second half. So in a state semifinal matchup, like, what a way to slam the door. No, it's not going to happen for you guys. And Burlington was a super fun team to watch. I don't watch a lot of 6-man games, but that was a really kind of a neat experience because, I was flipping back and forth between 9-man and 11-man, and then I would flip back to the 6-man game, and I would be like, wait, he's snapping it to him, he's lateraling it to him, and then he's running, So it took me a minute to kind of get oriented on what was going on, but overall, I mean, Burlington played a really classy game. And on the other side, Little Snake River, they beat Hewlett, like I said, 79-8. They're led by Coach Jack Cobb. The Rattlers reached their 5th straight title appearance, and man, what a great offense. Every time I flipped back to their game, it was like, I mean, the score reflects this, 79-8, but every time I flipped back to tune into their game, it was like a 70-yard run down the sideline, or something. Those 6-man games can get out of hand pretty fast, of course, because there's so little players and such a big field.
Yes.
So it is really important to have such an athletic and fast team in 6-man. And this offense, it was a really creative design to their offense too. Like, watching some of the other 6-man teams, like you may have a guy snap the ball and 3 blockers and 1 guy going downfield. And that's not what Little Snake River was doing at all. They were typically having the center who would snap the ball, and then basically everyone else would go out for a pass. Mm-hmm. So there was a lot of options, and it really forced Hewlett to cover the entire field. So I think in the state final game, when we see Burlington take on Little Snake River, it's going to be a really cool stylistic clash of a really potent offense that will spread you out versus a very athletic and gritty defense that's willing to cover the whole field. Mm-hmm. Those types of situations are really cool. And I think that, like I was saying, that style of these two different teams where you have this really potent offense versus this really stout defense is going to make for a cool final matchup, and we'll be there covering it.
Yeah. I can imagine you just can't hide anybody in a game like this, and, I've heard people say it's like basketball on grass, and you just, like you said, it's just, especially, if you've got one kid that's extremely fast and talented, you better have a gang tackling team or the ability to get there. But with so much space, mm-hmm. if you can't win your one-on-ones, I can't imagine. I mean, that's why you get those type of scores.
Sure. Yeah. And it was kind of a similar situation in the 9-man finals too. I mean, this is a little bit less of a, at least for the first game that I watched, it was Pine Bluffs versus Lingle Fort Laramie. Pine Bluffs was the number 1 ranked team. They beat Lingle 65-15. They're coached by Will Gray. They had a kind of similar to Little Snake River. They had a really dynamic offense. They had some really great running backs, multiple guys who were carrying the ball. I'm just going to list a few. Number 5, their quarterback, Carson Freeberg. Number 6, Cade Fornstrom. We know that Fornstrom last name. Yeah. Number 32, Gabe Federer. Man, he was a thick running back. This was like, do you remember Mike Alstott?
Yeah.
For the Buccaneers.
Yeah.
This is what kind of reminiscent of that. He was.
He got the neck roll.
Yeah. I don't think he had the neck roll, but
right.
He had some moves. He was kind of shifty, especially for a bigger guy. But I mean, this was like, dude coming down through the gap, and you see 2 or 3 guys from Lingle Fort Laramie like kind of think twice. Am I going to try to dive at this guy's knees or not? And he ended up having some breakout runs. Number 2, Eli Curry, he was awesome, and number 22, Ty Scarborough, he was awesome. I mean, this is a team that pretty much anybody who touches the ball has big play potential, and those are the most fun teams to watch in football, in my opinion. But on the other side, it was number 4, Rocky Mountain. They took down Graybull in maybe the best game of the semifinals. It was Rocky Mountain won 35-34. They drilled a game-winning field goal with about 4 seconds remaining. Their coach was Jesse Wilson. I wrote on here, this has got to be a contender for the best game of the week. I mean, it was absolutely back and forth. Excuse me. Rocky Mountain had a pretty good challenge against Graybull. I mean, they went up on, I should have brought my notes on the scoring, but they went up, I think it was by like 12 or 17 or 18 or something like that. And Graybull kind of slowly started chipping away, making this comeback. And I'm kind of flipping back and forth between games, but I would notice, I'm like, oh, here comes Graybull. This is going to come down to the wire. And eventually Graybull did take the lead in the fourth quarter. They went up by 2, 34-32. And Rocky Mountain was, you could tell, with about, I think it was about a minute left in the game. They were facing about a 70-yard drive. And they got all the way down to, I think, the 20-yard line. And their kicker ran out. And, man, with all the pressure and all the marbles, on the line in such a high-stakes situation in a 9-man game.
Graybull was undefeated, too.
Oh, man. I love high school football, dude. It's so cool, like, seeing these storylines kind of meet and eventually, like, they're on a collision course. And I think they probably must have played Rocky Mountain throughout the year, but to step up and drill a field goal in a 9-man game, I mean,
exactly.
Kicking is not a huge part of Wyoming football,
especially if you don't play soccer. You know, like usually you got the soccer kid out there in 3A and 4A,
right?
But yeah, you're.
I mean, he stepped up and he buried it, and it was a cool crowd reaction too, because you get the sense that, this is win or lose right here on this play. And, I love when sporting events or games like come down to the final play of the game. Like, this wasn't quite a walk-off. I think there was 2 or 3 seconds left, but, basically knowing if we make this, we're going to the finals. If we miss it, we lose and our season's over. So the amount of pressure, and to go out and face a timeout, and then, like they always say, icing the kicker, have to go back to your sideline and no, I'm the guy that's going to be kicking. Oh shoot, I got to wait another 2 minutes before I actually go out there and kick it. So the highs and lows I imagine that kid was going through it was really a cool thing to see that ball go through the uprights, the referees stand up and wave their hands, and then the sideline, the team just rushing over to the sideline, basically knowing, hey, we did this. We took down Graybull.
Mm-hmm. In their last matchup on the 10th of October, Graybull defeated them 22-14. So it was another close game. Just trying to see this kid's kicking stats.
Yeah, you feel for Graybull. I mean, and Stu, you know this. You and I, we've been on the verge of undefeated seasons, and the pressure that comes with that, especially as you get closer to the state championship game. And so I could imagine that for both teams there was of course going to the finals, but there's a lot riding on this moment.
Well, I'm imagining. Do you remember what number the kicker was? 16. Will Watts.
If that was you, Will, that was a dope field goal.
And it was his first field goal attempt of the season. They only kicked extra points, and they must have. Maybe there's a rule in 9-man where you have to go for 2. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, I don't know. But it's all like, well, no, because it's extra points. So, but according to stats on the internet, no field goal attempts up until that point.
Well,
So
what a time to bury your first field goal.
Do you just close your eyes and go for it at that point?
I mean, like I said, like kicking's not a huge part of the game.
How far was the attempt?
It was at the 20-yard line, so it was about 30 yards.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
37.
I mean, and like I said, like that's, in the world of football, that's not unearthly, right? Like you think of that being like a chip shot, but with the snow coming down, you've never kicked a field goal the entire season.
Exactly.
I mean, just think about yourself stepping up and trying to drill it's like College Game Day with Pat McAfee. Like, this ball is gonna ricochet and drill somebody on the sideline, But no, he got it up in the air, and I remember just kind of jumping out of my seat, like, oh my gosh, he buried it.
Yeah.
Such a cool experience. And I'm sure he was like the man, on the way home.
Yeah.
My dad used to say the kickers, they have no friends except for when they hit game-winning field goals, and so maybe it's not that way with this guy, but
well, he's, knowing small school sports, I'm sure he was also a really good player on the field. I'm sure they utilized him as well. In addition to his kicking, he's also running back, receiver. So, yeah, that's awesome. Great for him. Great for Rocky Mountain.
Over to the 2A game, the 2A semifinals. These were actually some pretty decent performances from the number 1 and
surprising
the number 2 team.
Performances, in my opinion.
Number 2, Mountain View, they beat Lovell in the semifinals, 52-14. That'll be their first appearance in the state championship since they won it in 2019, I believe. They're coached by Brent Walk.
Yep.
Such a big momentum, thriving team. You could just tell that when it rains, it pours with this team. And, we were texting back and forth about Justice Platts, their quarterback. I mean, what a stud this guy is.
Yeah.
He had 7 total touchdowns in the game, 4 of them rushing, 2 of them passing, and 1 defensive scoop and score for about 70 yards.
Yeah, I watched that, and he housed it quickly. Mountain View is, they've been one of the best programs since Coach Walk has been there. Good friend of mine, and this was coming, and just looking at the stats and watching them over the years, they've got I think the number 1 offense. They're the most balanced team in 2A.
Mm-hmm.
They definitely throw the ball, especially with Justice there. And but then they also have a top 5 defense, and Lovell had a great season, and they played just a few weeks ago. I'll look that up, but I think it was 1 or 2 possession games. So
yeah, Lovell's red zone defense was really stout, actually. Mountain View actually had a hard time breaking through the red zone to score. I mean, they beat them 52-14, but a lot of these touchdowns were actually on the big play. A couple of the touchdowns towards the end of the game, like number 6, Ashton Colangelo. We know him from basketball. Yep. He had a great game. He had 2 touchdowns on both of them were on a jet sweep.
Yep, great athlete.
He seems like a really good kid and a great athlete, and it was fun to watch him kind of take it to the outside and then cut it back up the middle when that gap came from the offensive line. And they were a fun team to watch, man. I mean, and they're going to run up against the number 1 team in 2A. That's Bighorn. They beat Thermopolis 48-6. The Rams will have a chance to repeat as they won the championship last year. They're coached by Kirk McLaughlin. I don't know. Did you happen to see the opening possession of that game by chance?
Yeah, I watched pretty much that whole game.
So Thermop started with the ball. They got down, they were running, I think it's called the wing T, or it's basically a real tight formation.
Thermop?
Yes.
Double wing.
Yeah, double wing. Okay. And so they're basically running counter and reverse and trap the whole, they're basically going up the middle the entire way, and they kind of methodically moved the ball down the field. And what ended up happening was they fumbled the ball, and on the next play, Bighorn went for a 65-yard touchdown pass to Jordan Garrison. It just totally was like, the
little wheel route.
It's like 12 plays for you to get down to the red zone, and then we're going to get it all back on one big play. I mean, what a cool thing.
Yeah, it reminds me of, the game we'll talk about here soon with Lander and Star Valley. But, yeah, I mean, Thermop really wasn't having major issues moving the ball methodically down the field, and like you said, it was just turnovers or just bad timing or whatever. But
I think
Hasty
Thermop,
kid, he was a stud, the tailback, and he had a couple big kickoff returns for him too. But it was you just, and they knew it, Thermopolis knew they couldn't give the ball to Bighorn.
Right. And they turned it over 3 times in the red zone.
Yeah.
So,
and 3 times, I think, in the first half.
Yeah. I think that's what it was.
Yeah.
I mean, the Bighorn defense is for real. I mean, we were kind of texting about it in our group chat. Like, can this team hang in 3A? I mean, they are big. They're fast. They're physical. They're well coached. I mean, all the above for a 2A program. I mean, there's a reason they're ranked number 1. There's a reason they won the championship last year. There's a reason. I mean, I remember when I played, there was a kid. I think his name was Colton Williams or Coulter Williams, but he was one of the most talented running backs I've seen in a long time. Wasn't overly a big guy, but you can tell their player development is not parallel to what you would think of as from a 2A program. Like they take this stuff very seriously.
They've got it going. Yeah, they had that. The Thermop announcers were calling it the chaos defense, but most of the time they never had a hand in the ground on defense. All 4 down, like quote unquote down line, they were all standing up.
Yeah. You don't see that very often.
Not in high school, especially. You'll see that sometimes in the NFL or different college teams or whatever. But and you never really know where the rush is coming from, and so it's going to be interesting to see that against an extremely disciplined team like Mountain View.
Yeah.
I think there's strengths and benefits to that, obviously, and it's working really well for them. But it was just an interesting thing. I hadn't really seen that before a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and this is kind of I think that's going to be kind of that game between Bighorn and Mountain View will kind of resemble the 3A finals as well. In the 3A semifinals, Star Valley, they beat Lander 37-3. They advanced to the state title game. It's their 32nd straight win, so 32 consecutive, and their 4th straight title appearance. On the other side, number 2 Cody beats Riverton 28-21, and maybe the best game of the night. But yeah, so in the finals, you're going to see Cody and Star Valley again. They've combined to win the last 10 3A titles.
Yeah, it's only been them, in the last 10. Yeah, and just wild. Both of those programs' success, and there may be upstarts here and there that try to compete with them. And, you've seen the Powells and the Jacksons recently that have come up there. And when Coach Lenhart was at Torrington, they went 3 years in a row, but lost to Star Valley. As long as I've been in the state, I actually started Star Valley my first year. Their football program is elite.
Yep.
And that too, because I've grew up in Idaho, I've lived in Wyoming the last 15 years, but the last 2 years Star Valley has beaten Sugar Salem, which is a powerhouse in Idaho football. And so it's not just Wyoming. They're not just Wyoming good.
Right.
They can line up with the best of them, and he's done it so many different ways, Coach Young. When they played you guys, what was that, 16? They were power, just like
physical.
Yeah. I They had they, instead of tight ends, they'd bring in more linemen, and just try to run you over. And then these last few years, they've just been spread. And so, kudos to him to be able to adapt to what he's got. But overall, just incredible.
Yeah, I mean they're encroaching on best 3A team in Wyoming history. I mean this is a very well coached program. They celebrate this team very highly in this in the town of Afton, or at the school of Star Valley. The first play of the game, they had a 71-yard touchdown by 44 Nathan Hatterley. He had 3 touchdowns in the game, 11 carries for 218 yards.
Yeah.
Unreal. Their other running back was just as good. I thought he didn't quite have the stat line, but it was number 43 Kyan Watson. He had 2 rush touchdowns and 78 yards, I want to say, on like 7 carries or something like that. But there was one thing that did jump out to me. Maybe it's an anomaly. I wasn't keeping track of this, but they had 14 penalties for 115 yards, and they missed every point after attempt. And he said it in the post game. He was like, we're gonna have to start going for 2 because
I was surprised they've kept going for it. It's funny to see a team that's so dominant in every phase, struggle with one thing like that. Especially with just the physical advantage that they have over most teams, but especially Lander. That was kind of funny. But and then the penalties, it was like mostly pre-snap.
Mm-hmm.
How many times
did
they, and so I don't know if the ref was just keyed in on something or what, but
or maybe they just were real amped up on the line, which would be a good thing to have, right? But that discipline.
And to Lander's credit, they were there a lot. Cody West is one of the best football players in the state, and they had pursuit a lot of the time, but when they would swing to the outside, and you've got those smaller cornerbacks just waiting to get duoed or triple teamed. It was it had to be relied upon for that back end to make tackles, and they just couldn't. Huge stiff arms in that game, or just spinning off tacklers. And
that duo at the running back position is was very unique, and I think they did the post-game interview too, and humble kids, man. That's kind of what I always respected about Star Valley was, they get amped up and they do their thing out there on the field, but they are a cohesive unit. Everyone's bought in. Of course, like they've been to the championship so many times, like there's got to be some consistency somewhere, and I think it's really their buy-in, their commitment to the program. One thing that stood out, which it's hard not to stand out if you watch a Star Valley game, is the SVI broadcast.
Yeah.
What a treat that was watching. We were texting back and forth about it. They do it right. This is like, and talking about celebration of a high school team, like how much more can you celebrate a athletic program than having 8 different cameras, a sideline reporter, a guy
studio.
in the booth. The play-by-play and the color guy were excellent. They sounded like a college broadcast. It was really neat. But on the other side, it was Cody and Riverton. And this probably, like I was saying, was one of the best games. And man, a lot of tension in this game. We sat there and watched every single play. Cody took them down 28-21. They're led by Coach Matt McFadden. His son, Cash McFadden, had a great game. 17 carries, 123 yards with 4 rushing touchdowns. Mm-hmm. He was 14 of 18 through the air with 156 passing yards. Just a great performance. This is their 6th straight appearance in the finals. Their last win was 2021, so I'm sure they are itching to get back.
Well, and they only lost by a touchdown the last time they played Star Valley, so they've got to imagine that they think they can stick in there and do it. Like, what was it? 2 years ago, Talich was Player of the Year, all everything, and he broke his collarbone.
I know.
And that was too bad. That would have been one of the more epic state championship games if he would have been able to play. But yeah, I think, after watching both teams, I really do think Cody has an opportunity to to play with them. Just as how they present stylistically something that is difficult to match up with in the right conditions. I mean, if it's Laramie conditions, that's a little bit more difficult. I think they really want to spread you and go fast, and Star Valley can adapt to that. But like you said, the McFadden kid, super impressed with him when he pulled that and ran for the first touchdown of the game. I thought, okay, this is going to be a long night for the Wolverines, but yeah, credit them. I mean, holy cow.
Well, you can't say enough about Riverton this year. I mean, losing basically your three best players on offense, quarterback Gantenbein, running back Saltzgaver, one of the best players in all of Wyoming football.
Correct.
From the running back position, and your second string running back, Braden Martin. So, I mean, just they were
high school record holders. I mean, in Gantenbein and Saltzgaver, you can't replace them, but they almost did.
They almost did. Yeah.
I mean, if you would have told me that the Vincent kid number 12, was their back, not even their backup, like he's a middle linebacker and a receiver, right?
Yep.
Typically, if you would have told me that he was their backup, I would have been now. I mean, the confidence that he displayed in running that offense, which is not easy to run, as a quarterback, I was so impressed, and the balls that he put on those receivers, and some of those receivers are banged up. I think Clay Sheets has a broken arm.
Yep.
Just sheer will.
Mm-hmm.
Riverton did such a great job of, they knew what they had to do. They had to bleed that clock, and limit the Cody possessions. And they do, it's always amazing to me in those type of games. I feel like the Riverton staff has 5 or 6 plays that they can go to that you just haven't seen before.
Yeah.
And they're not trick plays, they're just different, and it gets them a first down, and then they can just kind of sink their teeth in. And so they did exactly what they needed to do to stay in that game. And I thought they were going to do it.
Yeah. It was a neat experience watching the game. That's where I played, and I just had a huge sense of pride, like being a Wolverine alumni. Like, Coach Lenhart, he has done so much for the program. Like he has basically taken a program that really had no direction and given it like lifeblood and purpose, all really quickly. And like you were saying, like to take a state championship caliber team, lose half of your offense in one game
for yardage purposes.
Yeah. And then to turn around your second string offense, and to be at the 30-yard line with going in to score to tie the game or to take the lead, I think. It was a really cool experience. I mean, Riverton is so lucky to have him, and they're going to be set up. If they can replace a couple of these guys, of course, it was a heartbreaking way to end the season. But if they can bounce back and, have another year under the Lenhart tenure, they're going to be like what you were talking about, one of those startup programs that's going to be right there in the mix with Cody and Star Valley. But
I think both Fremont County teams that got to the semifinals are in that boat. The amount of athletes that Lander had too was just impressive, and those guys are all back.
Right.
So it'll be fun to see if either of those teams can maybe chip away at the Cody Star Valley dominance.
Right. All right. Well, let's wrap it up with 4A. Number 1 Sheridan, they beat Cheyenne Central 28-7 over 50. They're over 50 consecutive wins for a reason. What a talented program that Sheridan team is. On the other side, number 2 Gillette, they beat Cheyenne East 22-19. This was a great game. It was back and forth, and the Camels took the lead there in the fourth quarter to shut the door on Cheyenne East. But Sheridan, man, this is a chance to 5-peat. Do we ever talk about that kind of streak in Wyoming? 5 championships in a row. It's insane.
I don't know if there is a more dominant program. I'm sure, people that listen to this probably will correct me quickly. 18 straight semifinal appearances in football for Sheridan. And they have won since 2014, 10 years, or since 2000, the last 25 years, Sheridan has won 15 of them. Just unbelievable. Yeah. Starting with Don Julian, a former Riverton dude, mm-hmm. Bringing that culture, and then passing it off to another Riverton guy, Jeff Mowry. And just watching them, why. The best tackling that I've seen in high school football. I mean, you go down. Like, mm-hmm. there's, no matter where you're at, open space, their fundamentals are just impressive. Yep. And like you said, I was really impressed with Central too. They moved the ball so well against them, and they had a great plan, and they were very disciplined too. And it wasn't really anything they did except just a couple of turnovers. And Sheridan has this dude, Brent Reed, I think is his last name, Reed.
Yeah, Breck.
Mm-hmm. Breck. Yeah, I wrote Breck. But his burst, and then he had the...
Oh, my gosh. He was fun to watch.
Should have had a punt return. But then they had the Rogers kid that did have the punt return. Just some really good athletes is really kind of the difference was, them just being able to make one or two plays in space. But they made Sheridan work for it. And, Central got down to the goal line.
Yep, they did.
And didn't get in a couple of times, so what a great representation for Wyoming. I mean, I just super impressed by that game, but especially, Sheridan pulling that off.
Yeah. To me, they resemble like a Division II team. Like, I mean, they got some Division II, Division I caliber athletes on that team. Like, the two guys that I wrote down were the two linebackers, Braxton Crow and Keegan Rager. When you're talking about anchoring your defense, I can think back to a couple linebackers of the past that I played against and that I've seen throughout the state. These guys are physical, athletic, and like what you were saying with the tackling ability. Like if they get in the vicinity of the ball carrier, they are going down. It's not an arm tackle. It's not a hard hit and a bounce off or something like that. It's you are going down to the ground. And
they're like driving through them. I mean, there's probably 5 times where they had like picked up the ball handler or the ball carrier.
Yeah.
And then just set him down on the ground. That's, I don't know a ton about football. I watch a lot of football, but I remember being coached to do that, like get low and drive through. And so, either they were on the ground or they were not going forward.
Yeah. And on offense, it was like you mentioned, number 4, Breck Reed. I did have him down for 3 total touchdowns. He had a receiving touchdown. He did have a punt return touchdown.
That's right.
And one of them, and he had a second one actually, but I think there was a holding call that brought it all the way back. So he should have had 2 punt returns.
Yep.
And he also had a pick six.
The pick six was what iced it. I think that made it 21-0 at that point. And then it was kind of mid 4th quarter when that happened. And Central was able to get one on the board, and then it was over.
Yeah. Well, on the other side, number 2 Gillette, they beat Cheyenne East 22-19. This was a back and forth game, and some drama, from the Gillette program. They lost their coach, I think, the day before. We're not sure really what happened. We don't want to get into that too much, but to lose your leader and your head coach of your program, and then to turn around and beat a really good Cheyenne East team in the final moments, 22-19, like that really stood out to me. That their composure, their preparation, all the things we've talked about this entire podcast was really surfaced from that Gillette team. And it's going to be an interesting matchup with Sheridan. I mean, they've clearly been the number 1 and the number 2 teams all season. This will be their first appearance in the title game since 2015. They made just enough plays to beat Cheyenne East. I mean, this game could have gone either way. There was a snowstorm in the first half. Of course, that really modifies the conditions of the game. Sometimes you think you're going to air it out or you're going to spread the defense out. And, some of those things just aren't viable when you've got, wet gloves or, you're slipping on the turf a little bit and you have to change your game plan on the fly. And they did that. They had methodical drives. They marched the ball down the field. In the fourth quarter, there was a 1-yard touchdown run that took the game from 16-19 to 22-19, and that was the final touchdown of the game. And like I was saying, to respond after a dramatic week, just in the program and in the high school in general, I was really impressed by Gillette, actually.
Yeah, tells you that's probably a player-led program.
Yep.
And they were able to do that. But yeah, I mean, maybe another topic for another day. But when those schools split into Gillette and Thunder Basin, I want to say there was probably at least 2, maybe 3 years where they were winless.
Yeah. A lot of the athletes went to
Thunder Basin early on. And it's taken, both the basketball and once proud tradition. Talk about, you could say the same thing. I mean, I think they went to 24 straight semifinal games, something like that. But when they split, they were left kind of a hole there. And, so credit that whole operation, to be able to kind of claw back and get into the state championship. I know we have written down the first time since 2015, but that was when they had 3,000 kids in their school, and so it's a whole different ballgame now, and really, really interested to see, how this state championship shakes out. It's obviously going to always be difficult to beat Sheridan. The last time they played, Sheridan beat them 28-10 in mid-October a few weeks ago. So, but yeah, you never know if you're playing for something. Gillette might be have something a little extra that they need to compete. And like we talked about earlier with the volleyball games, if you can just start fast and keep it close, you never know what'll happen. And just like with Star Valley having penalties and not being able to make PATs, sometimes those things show up and rear their heads. So it'd be cool if we could get a good state championship in the 4A.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, all these games are going to be, I think, excellent games. In 4A, it's number 1 and number 2. 3A, it's number 1, number 2. 2A, number 1, number 2. 9-man is 1A number 1 and number 4. And 6-man's number 1 and number 3. So all these teams kind of are on these cool collision courses, and we're going to be down there at state footballs. We're going to be getting pictures and hopefully doing some live updates, getting some film, maybe putting a video together. But I mean, these types of moments are just so defining, like for young people's lives. Like if you're an athlete and getting a chance to play on War Memorial Field where you've been hundreds of times, or, watching the Cowboys play, and, now you're envisioning over the course of your career, like, I want to play on that field someday. And a lot of these guys have done it multiple times. So I'm excited to see how things turn out. And, like you said, it's so healthy and good for the state of Wyoming when you have these big programs and they're resurfacing again, like Gillette, these great storylines like you got in 3A and 2A, just all on these awesome trajectories, and it's all going to culminate down in Laramie. So we'll be down there. I'm excited to actually cover those. This will be my first time actually going and watching all of the games at state. I've watched them on NFHS, but I've never actually been there live. So I'm excited to see how that atmosphere turns out. I mean, it's a once weekly game for football, so, you can probably count on a lot of your fans being there. I'm excited for the atmosphere, but we are a little long overdue here on the episode. If you made it this far, thanks for listening. That was a pretty deep dive on some of on some of these games, and this was a nice long conversation.
Yeah, maybe we can split the conversation up, and people that want to listen to their section can do that. But yeah, we really, really appreciate you hanging on with us, and I think the kids and communities deserve it, and that's what we kind of intend to do here.
Yeah, so share us with your friends. I mean, if you know somebody that loves high school sports, if you love high school sports, or your son or your daughter or somebody's playing, share this stuff with them on Facebook, or share them on Spotify and YouTube. I mean, let's get the word out there that we're trying to do something big for the state, and we're actually trying to connect all these communities together. And I hope that we've done that so far, and that's our goal moving forward. But Like I said at the beginning, we're doing a photo contest on Facebook for these fall sports. Football is just about to wrap up. Volleyball's already wrapped up, so I know there's lots of good pictures out there. Send them over to us on Facebook or info.wyoming5star@gmail.com. We're giving away $50 here at the end of the month, so looking forward to see all those photos in our inbox. And like I also said at the beginning of the podcast, that our website is coming soon. We've been working really hard. We've had a few setbacks, but I think it's for the best, and I'm really excited to launch that. That's going to be the main driver of our product in general and of our brand. So tune in to check out some cool stories. We're gonna have quite a bit of content on there. So really looking forward to that. If you see us at State Football next weekend, I'm going to be wearing my Wyoming 5 Star hoodie. So please